other. We need to be mirrored, emulated, and celebrated, as who you are truly does make a difference. And for me, it's all about becoming consciously purposeful. And for those of you who listened in earlier, I learned to become more purposeful in my last 10 years of life than I ever did. And it took certain challenges for me to realize that how purposeful I needed to become and what I needed to do. And this is purely for who I am. So that's just a little insight about myself, and I look forward to collaborating with all of you shortly. So just a little bit about our center, which is Orbrix Training in the UAE. We're a center of excellence where we believe that leaders in the restoration world actually meet on this particular platform, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But in terms of our programs that we run, we've got various academies at which we function from, and our core focus area in the UAE has been Academy 1 and 2, which is the CBRN Academy, and our Radiation Protection Officer training, which is government legislated programs that we have to roll out and run in terms, and this is why it's called Leaders in the Restoration World. So we work with leaders in those worlds and look at how do we look at restoring back in terms of what works for a country, what works for an organization. We've extended our service into Business Academy, in the Leadership Academy, Human Resources, Health and Safety, and of course our online. And that's just a little bit about our academies. If you require more information, our information will be at the end of the slides, and you're welcome to contact us for any of that. One of the core focus areas that we do work on here is our coaching and mentoring in terms of business executive coaching, personal coaching, and of course team and career coaching as well. So just a quick insight into why we're here today. Our why in terms of living purposefully. This is our why. This is about part of living purposefully. So training providers has been hit really hard in various countries and organizations because we can't do face-to-face training and development, and that's our core business. And I gave a lecture in last week about strategies in terms of how to look at your business, and one of the strategies is same products but different methodologies. So we had to look at a different methodology to get ourselves out there into the actual market. But also more importantly, we needed to look at how do we give back in terms of providing support during COVID-19. We have all those heroes that are out there, but all we could really do is support, perhaps maybe from a financial perspective or a phone call, but how else could we support the process? And this is our way of contributing by doing what we do best. And ladies and gents, this is what we actually do best. So we developed a virtually live, in fact, that logo that you see on the left-hand side was just developed by, in fact, Ermal, who's on the line with us here today, just over the last 8 weeks, where we decided that we needed to work more smartly and more responsibly. I'm sorry, I believe that my WhatsApp messages are going crazy and the sound is coming through. So I am just going to mute that for now. And I'm assuming you all can see my screen again. Yes?
Yes.
Here we go.
Yes.
So what we did is virtual workshops. We started introducing on the virtually live. We've started introducing virtual workshops, and that runs basically from Mondays to Thursdays, where we have virtual workshops. Tomorrow is one of the days we will have a workshop as well, which is named as Champion People Build Champion Nations. And that's going to be run by none other than Ashraf Garda, who is the founder of Champion People in South Africa. So that is part of the various workshops. Alexa, for example, is running another workshop for us that you will notice in the week. Please watch our space on our Facebook pages. And these are all complimentary workshops that you will see. Then we've got our virtual panel discussions as to why we are here today, and you'll see that every Saturday. We will stop by next week Saturday, a week just before Eid, and then of course we most likely will continue after Eid as well. And then watch out for our global summit, which is coming up in the first week of June, immediately after Ramadan, where we'll be running our first summit based on a topic which is very close to us, and that is the CBRN. We're going to be looking and speaking to people in emergency planning, in disaster management, and we're talking to people from all over the world who's going to come together and tell us what worked in their countries. So people at government level that's going to tell us about the success stories in Dubai, success stories in South Africa, success stories in Canada, and so forth. And more importantly, what were we supposed to learn from this? And how can we start to change the way we do things in the country and in the world? So watch out for that global summit that is coming up in the first week of June. Other topics that we have covered are in those areas over there. So please watch our Facebook pages, join us on our Facebook page, Staying Virtually Live with Orbrix, and you'll be able to see more of what we are doing in the next few weeks as well. So let's get to our actual panel discussion. Many of you have seen this introduction, but I put it up especially on screen so that you can relook at it, is that we are in the midst of a public health crisis and its effect on the global economy will not be fully understood for some. As you can see on the screen, it raises challenges and concerns not only about health and safety, but also many of us are talking about personal finance, investment opportunities, challenges, tax planning, strategies, innovation in terms of our actual business as well, with regards to how we choose to look at our strategy now and how we choose to look at our strategy in another year or two from now. So it's about really being proactive instead of actually being reactive, which many of us up to now have been in a lot of our businesses. So the COVID-19 crisis has prompted this inspiring acts of innovation that is coming around. And you must remember that the citizens have proved how capable humans are of innovating during this time of crisis. I mean, look around you. Look at how people have just developed and designed overnight. You're having hospitals that are being built within a week or 2 weeks. You are having facilities turned into medical facilities within a span of 3 weeks. Who would have even thought that we would have gone that route? And it's all due to innovation. The social distancing, for example, the mandatory for schools and universities, has prompted us to rethink how we learn. Something that I've always, and many people who knows me will actually also know, that I've always fostered to say, hey, hang on, there's a difference between schooling and education. You can still educate without having to be in a formal setting of school. And we need to relook at that and say, how is it possible for us to reinvent that? And then, I call it education reimagined, as we'd like to look at. So the necessity forces companies to actually innovate. So without going through all of this, I would like us now to join a panel of experienced experts in business, education, and government, who's going to now talk to us amidst the crisis in terms of how do we actually innovate and what can we utilize, what has been done, what are their experiences, and of course ask them many questions and answers. Ladies and gents, I invite you here today to be really interactive. Ask lots of questions. Here's your opportunity. You have the experts in front of you here today. Let's not miss this opportunity. So first up, I'd like to introduce Michelle. Michelle Ashen is going to be our moderator here today. And Michelle, a hearty thank you for accepting our invitation. And for those ladies that are here that I'm going to be introducing, some of whom just came forward and said, Hawa, I would love to be part of the session. I want to volunteer my time and effort. We just want to thank you. Michelle is an international public speaker. She is also a professional coach. She's a member of International Coaching Federation and Ubuntu. And I'm going to leave Michelle to explain to you the word Ubuntu for those of you who's not familiar with the word. In fact, I think on our previous session, 1 or 2 people have explained it, but I'll leave it particularly to Michelle to explain. And Ubuntu lab facilitator with the Presence Institute. Michelle's inside recovery practitioner with over 8 years of personal and team effectiveness facilitation. Michelle, thank you very much for being here with us. If you want to wave and say hello to everybody so they can see who you are, good to have you. I'll now introduce our speakers. We have Yolande, who's the director and founder of YT Consultants, which is an accredited training and skills provider. She's accredited in terms of a life coach, executive and business coach, NLP practitioner. She makes a difference through innovative skills transfer, leadership, and organizational development. Welcome, Yolande. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Hawa.
Alexa, our next panelist, is certified as a professional integral coach through the Center for Coaching at the University of Cape Town's Graduate School of Business. It's an honor to have Alexa here with us as well today. Her passion, helping people help themselves. And I think that's something that I just chatted earlier with Jenny about, is that if we are willing and open to help ourselves, only then the change can actually make happen. So Alexa actually believes that, and strongly, in terms that's part of her makeup for the past 20 years, and a lot of experience that's coming there. She's also a member of the faculty of the Center of Coaching for UCT Graduate School of Business and Mentors Coaching, and the Coaching for Development of CFD program. Alexa holds a National Diploma in Human Resource Management in Cape Town Technikon. So Alexa, an absolute pleasure to have you here with us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hawa.
Then we have Jennifer Randive, and not only is Jennifer an amazing friend, but she's also been an amazing mentor to me. So I've had a few mentors in my life, and I think all over the world they span, and with each one of them put together has allowed me to grow who I am today. And Jennifer is one of those women that I can actually look up to. As I've mentioned, we've spent about 8 years together, and I love her introduction as the maverick. Who definitely goes against the grain. I promise you. This woman, if you are swimming upstream, she will swim downstream. If you are swimming down, she will swim up. And she will question everything. So being the maverick at Focus Direct Management Consultants, if you look at the Mavericks here, is what suits my way of being the change. She's the catalyst, the paradigm buster, the mindset shifter, the coach, the mentor, the counselor, and the consultant. Many titles put on to one, but very closely a very good friend. Jennifer had a privilege to work with some of the most prestigious government and semi-government private and international multinational companies, assisting them with their talent search. Welcome, Jennifer, and what an honor to have you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks, Hawa.
Tasneem Mohamed, also a very close friend that I've just got to know over the last few months, but I think the connection has been amazing. She is the Chief Imagination Officer and Innovation Director. Having established a series of business brands, she's regarded as a serial idea generator. Now you know why we have these women on a session on extreme innovation. She's regarded as a serial idea generator and is lead facilitator on strategic think assessments. Tasneem adds invaluable knowledge and experience to boards and leaders all across the spheres, and she has a BA in HR and communication with specialization in advertising. She is a certified trainer and assessor, as well as a trained global innovation management practitioner. Just so that those of you in the UAE and in Pakistan, India that have joined us, thank you for being here. Just to let you know that Tasneem has also signed a contract with Orbrix, and we'll be rolling out a lot of Tasneem's innovative programs in this particular region as well. So please watch out for those. It's going to be an amazing insight as to what we do here in the UAE. And that basically is our introduction to everybody. I would like to now hand over to our moderator, who's Michelle, for an exciting session. Question and answer will be open. Michelle will explain to you how she would like to be able to run that. However, I'm sure Michelle is going to start first, and we'll leave question and answer for a later stage. Armal has muted most of you, so please, if you need to ask a question or a comment, please type it out in the comments box, or alternatively, please raise your hand and we'll make sure that you are heard. The speakers are the only people at this stage that has been unmuted. Thank you, Michelle. All over to you.
Wow. Wow. I don't know if everybody's feeling that sense of sure. That was just what a powerful opening and just such a great share. Thank you, Hawa. And to everybody that's on the call, I think for you, it's an acknowledgement that that you're showing up here with a growth mindset. And I think that's certainly something that is needed in an extreme crisis. I read a beautiful quote this morning that yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift. And that's why it's called the present. And I think with everything that was just shared, the last 15 minutes, I'd like to invite us just to close our eyes for a minute, and just to kind of take all of that in, and to be grateful that we're here and that you showed up and that we're together, and for the thinking partnerships and the innovation that is undoubtedly going to emerge as a result of all of us coming together. So if we could just kind of close our eyes for 15 seconds, and just kind of just breathe and arrive and be here. Okay, 15 seconds. For some of us, that could feel like a lifetime. So just in terms of how we want to run the session this morning, we've curated quite carefully this conversation intentionally so that you can walk away with a sense of, oh wow, this was a good session, this was time well spent. We acknowledge that time is a commodity these days, and we certainly don't want to waste that for you. So what we'd like to do is encourage you to drop your questions in the chat, and we'll try and get to as many of them as we can. But certainly we don't want this to be a webinar that's going to end at a certain point in time, but rather for this to kickstart a conversation, and quite possibly a number of partnerships and innovations that could evolve in an online environment. So please do drop your questions, and draw pictures and write words of anything that comes to mind. We certainly want the session to be useful for you. You know, we're living in a time that has amplified the need for us to focus on the sustainable development goals as individuals, as business, and as society, so that we can support our local government efforts in terms of contributing to the results that we want to see in partnership with the United Nations across India, across Pakistan, across the UAE, and South Africa. You know, the role of the United Nations is to maintain international peace and security, to protect human rights, to deliver humanitarian aid, especially to countries that are vulnerable, and to promote sustainable development and uphold international law. And our role as individuals is to activate these realities in how we lead and in how we live in our communities. You know, the history of the Sustainable Development Goals goes back decades, and one might say, you know, more than 45 years ago, back to a really pivotal moment at a United Nations conference that took place in Stockholm in 1972. It was called the Conference on the Human Environment. It was the very first conference ever that the UN member states recognized that the economy on one side and the environment on the other were on a kind of collision course, because of the increasing weight of human activity on nature, which was leading to environmental risks of a magnitude and a scale that was unprecedented. 1972 was also the year in which a very important book was published called Limits to Growth. One of the key authors, being Donella Meadows, is known as a thought leader in systems thinking, which is an approach that's frequently used in complex problem solving and in innovation. Limits to Growth explained that if we're simply to continue to have economic growth with the then existing technologies, the scale of the global economy after a few decades of a constant geometric growth would be so large that the burdens on the physical Earth systems would become so overwhelming. So Limits to Growth and the Conference on the Human Environment way back in 1972 is what put us on this course towards the Sustainable Development Goals. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals were established in 2015 and are supported by the United Arab Emirates, South Africa, India, Pakistan, and these are all member states of the United Nations. These 17 goals are the blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all of us. They address the global challenges we face, which include poverty, inequality, climate change, environmental degradation, peace, and justice. These 17 goals are all interconnected, and in order for us to leave no one behind, it's really important that we achieve all of them by 2030. SDG 3 has been a critical and key focus area for UN agencies like the WHO and UNICEF, because access and the right to primary healthcare around the world has been a challenge. And COVID-19 has exacerbated that challenge, and it's brought to the surface and forced the world to overnight implement innovations and solutions to rapidly capacitate our healthcare systems. Getting through this pandemic and not losing the gains we've made in sustainable development and staying on this course is going to need extreme innovation, because this is an extreme crisis like no other. And the role of the SDGs is to provide a clear set of goals to help us as individuals orientate our behavior, to orientate the behavior of governments, businesses, for each of us as citizens, students, researchers, activists, and consumers, so that we're pointed in a shared direction. The question is, how do we go there together? This morning, we're privileged to have a group of expert thinking partners who've been so carefully curated by Orbrix and Hawa to give you as an audience this morning not only the tools to explore this crisis with the lens of innovation, but ways of thinking that you need to consider as an entrepreneur, an employee, a business owner, a board member, a mother, a father, a daughter, a son, a child. And I'd like to start the panel discussion with Alexa Stafford. So Alexa has extensive experience working for blue chip international organizations, leading human capital through change and challenges, and she's worked across the African continent. Alexa, I'm sure you're familiar with that quote by Bill O'Brien, which says the success of an intervention depends on the interior condition of the intervener. We're going through a significant amount of disruption and change across industries and throughout the world. And as individuals, families, communities, and as a society at large. As a change management expert, share with us your thoughts and your interpretation on what this quote means for you and what it could mean for others as a principle to consider on their journey through this extreme crisis that we're living in now.
Great question. Thank you so much, Michelle, and thank you so much to Hawa for having me. First of all, I'd just like to say that I may not give you specifics, okay? However, I'm hoping that I'm going to encourage people to think differently. So to answer your question, we need to lead ourselves first, critically important. And just by that, implication is that to get to a deeper state of leadership, we need to suspend our judgment and our cynicism. And we need to lead ourselves very differently during this time. So we're all change makers. We can all bring into reality the future vision that we have for ourselves. However, the shift needs to come from an inner place from which we operate. And it reminds me of a quote that Gandhi said. It's around being the change that you wish to see in the world. So success as a leader doesn't depend on what we do or how we do it at this stage. It depends on the inner place from which we operate. If we think of an egg, if you break the shell of an egg, the outside shell of an egg, life ends. However, if that shell is broken from the inside, life begins. So great things happen from the inside. We also need to go within ourselves during this time, and we need to look at where we're spending our time and our energy. Are we spending it on things that we can directly control and influence, such as, for example, our behavior, our thoughts, our attitudes, compassion, curiosity? Or are we spending it on those things that we cannot control? And the things that we can't control is whether we're going to lose our jobs or not, whether or when the lockdown is going to end, or the virus itself. So critically important to look within ourselves. And I think that's what the quote essentially means for me.
I love that story of the shell and the egg. I haven't heard that before. I'm going to use that one. Alexa, the quality of thinking at a time such as this is under tremendous pressure. Some may argue that it's deteriorating at a rapid rate, that the actions of others right now is questionable and will cause consequential damage soon and also later. Entrepreneurs, Governments and even non-profit organizations are also under tremendous pressure. And these individuals are not immune to the mental health challenges that everyone is experiencing during this crisis. You know, you spoke about that inner place and being able to lead ourselves. How does one innovate when the quality of our thinking and our judgment is clouded by so much fear, anxiety, and stress?
Michelle, it's interesting that you should ask this question. 2 weeks ago, I did some executive coaching for a team of directors from the Gauteng provincial government. And the individuals were chosen for their different skills, their experience, and their knowledge. And they were all there to assist the MEC to respond to this crisis. So their anxiety and fear was not only around COVID-19 and what they actually had to do, but also around the new team dynamics, which was becoming very, very evident. So if we just have a look at the question, from a physiological point of view, when we face a threat, our body responds in terms of releasing the hormones of cortisol and adrenaline. And our stress response kicks in. And our stress response is around flight, fight, or freeze. So we're in survival mode. And when we're in survival mode, we protect ourselves. And we can't collaborate, we can't innovate, and we certainly can't be creative when we're in that state. The more threatened that we are or that we feel, the more we seek approval, security, and control. And we cling to our opinions. We avoid or we actually pursue conflict and become completely overwhelmed. So to counteract this, we need to be very conscious of our thoughts and our behavior so that we can remain open, curious, that we can listen deeply, and that we can actually ask very deep and different questions. And again, I refer back to what I said earlier. We need to be conscious or mindful of where we are spending our time and energy and focus on those things over which we have control or direct influence.
Wow. Sure. That what you were sharing now reminded me of what Thomas Hubel was saying yesterday on an international call, that trauma blocks you. And we're going through a very traumatic experience, which I think for those on the call, and even just for me as I'm listening, is yes, that fear and that anxiety does kind of close you off in moments to want to collaborate, which leads me to introduce Yolande. You know, what Alexa is also talking about right now is the importance of focusing on yourself as an important aspect in navigating disruption and responding successfully. Yolande is the founder and director of YT Consultants, which is an accredited training and skills development provider. Yolande, it seems as though innovation is not necessarily something that just falls in your lap, that the ability to collaborate is not just something that you can do. It seems actually a little bit more complex, emotional, and to Alexa's point earlier, requires the application of mindfulness. You know, there appears to be some sort of a learning journey, and I mentioned the growth mindset earlier that needs to be applied. I think it would be useful for all of us on the call if, you know, with your experience, if you could share with us your thoughts and perspectives on how learning and development can support extreme innovation for an extreme crisis like this.
Thank you, Michelle. And I agree. Innovation and learning and development are interconnected, and you cannot experience the one without the other. Innovation is not new to any of us. We have been innovating throughout our lives. Many of us just do not use the term innovate or innovation. For example, starting university or your studies, a new career, new business venture, or on a personal level, getting married, becoming parents, or going through a divorce. Some change and transformation needed to happen in all of these events. We have the opportunity with COVID-19 to pause, reflect, and evaluate our life, business, and career, and decide what our next step forward would be. And as Alexa actually mentioned, it's all about mindfulness. And as you mentioned, learning and development is a lifelong journey. And with that journey, you need a map. And there are 3 different phases that you will encounter: the before, the during, and the after phases. Now, with the before phase, you actually have to start reframing from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And before COVID-19, everything worked well for the time that we lived in. And since COVID-19, we now have to change our thinking and the way in which we do things. And a lot of what and how we did things will not be relevant anymore, or part of it will still be. Therefore, we need to take the time to pause and be mindful of our knowledge and the skill sets that we have, and which of these need to change. We also need to decide what we need to reframe to from a personal or career or business perspective. And when I say this, I mean you need to go to your purpose, your ikigai, the reason for why you do things. So asking your why. And in terms of that, we need to understand, do I need to go digital, move to remote and online engagements, or open an online store? And then look at what my staff, what I need to make the transformation, and ultimately what the business needs to make the transition a smooth one. By doing this, you are moving into a growth mindset, into building resilience. The key in this phase is understanding what you need to reframe and not just follow the trend and what everyone else is doing right now. Moving into the during phase requires effort and persistence on our side, and is where we will undergo our greatest growth. COVID-19 has given us the opportunity to take webinars and courses at no cost through various institutions to improve our skills and knowledge, because either we have the time to do it or because we know we need to evolve. However, we need to be mindful, to be selective, and to filter the courses and webinars we choose, and not to get saturated with information overload. Therefore, when we reframe our thinking, we need to be clear about the direction we want to go, which will influence our skills and knowledge choices. And here you can categorize them into 3 different categories: self and personal development, career development, and business development. By doing it this way, you're actually looking at the holistic you and in identifying what skills I need. Some of the key skills, life skills that you will need going forward is emotional, social, and rational intelligence, your ability to collaborate with others, as Alexa mentioned, as well as our communication skills. What can we bring to the party or to the table that will create a better future for everyone? The technical and practical skills that you will require will be influenced by your career choice and the organization or business that you operate in. Don't wait. Create that plan or that map and structure, and start by doing one thing at a time. There will be times when we fail. Through persistence and effort, you need to identify that this is feedback and use the lessons to push us into the light and into the right direction. The after phase is what I call the breaking through and becoming phase, which will only truly be visible 6 months or a year from now. This is where all the reframing and decisions that we made, the small innovations, the hard work, and the micro wins help us to break through into becoming the person we want to be, having the career we want, transforming our business, and ultimately the life we want post-COVID-19. So use the before COVID-19 to reframe our mindset and decisions in order for it to guide our present and current state into shaping our after phase as we embark on this lifelong journey of learning and continuously innovating.
Wow, I couldn't make enough notes now. You've raised so many great points, I think, around the growth mindset. And for those who are on the call, Dr. Carol Dweck wrote the book, The Growth Mindset, and speaks about the fixed mindset. It's such an important part of that learning and development journey. And I like the way you're saying that we need to have a map that we need to kind of categorize the different areas and just kind of bringing to the fore how important it is that if we are going to innovate, we need to have a plan for ourselves, a plan for our business, to compartmentalize our thinking, to consider our thinking, to learn and develop. You know, you're also well known for having an extraordinary talent for gaining insight into the heart of the problem. And I think in what you were articulating now, it also kind of shows and gives us a sense of just all the different puzzle pieces that it takes to gain that insight. Can you share with us an example of how we could kind of learn and nurture this very important skill of being able to see the heart or the root of a problem? Because I think now more than ever, that particular skill is needed.
Absolutely, Michelle. And for me, I do not see problems as problems. I actually see them as challenges. And when you look at a problem as a challenge, it's something you can overcome. And as you're talking about the pieces in the puzzle, I always compare my challenges as building a puzzle or connecting the dots. And until I've connected and built this puzzle, I do not get the big picture, which then goes to the skills that I use and my go-to skills that I use in everything that I do, which consists of my core and my trifecta of A's, or what I call my big five. My core skills is my big picture thinking, or thinking systemically, and using my intuition and perception. That will initially guide me in terms of, am I on the right track? Are there red flags that are going off in terms of the information that I'm gathering? And then I use these to start the narrative in identifying the problem by utilizing the trifecta of A's. And my trifecta is active listening to the spoken words and the unspoken words, and using body language as well to identify what is actually being said. I then go through to analysis and analyzing through questioning and the 5 whys, or asking the 5 whys. And lastly is adapt and adjust into reviewing and the decisions that I've taken or made, or the conclusions that I've drawn. And is it still leading me to understanding that bigger picture, using my perception and intuition? And for example, recently I had the opportunity of seeing a prospective client and was given the brief in terms of their training requirements and what the problem is that they'd like to address. In the brief, using my big picture thinking and intuition and perception, there were already a few questions that arose from that brief that I received. And when I engaged with the client, I actually sat down to understand 2 things. My 2 questions that I really needed to understand was, have they identified the problem accurately? And will the request for training address the problem that they've identified? And as I sat through the meeting, I actively listened to what they mentioned, the key things that they assumed would be the problem areas and how they would see in solving these, the actual problem. And using my 5 senses, analyzing, asking the questions, and going back and actually reviewing everything that I received in terms of what I observed, the notes that I made, the feedback that I received, made me understand.
Are we all just checking in terms of sound? Are we all still good?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Awesome. As I said, as I reviewed the information, I adjusted and adapted. I took what was said, the information that was presented, the notes that I made, and I started to fit all of these pieces and connect the dots until I saw a bigger picture. And sometimes I also use brainstorming to help me to make sure that I actually get the right picture in terms of what is needed. And my initial intuition and perception of the brief that I got guided me in understanding that the problem that they identified was not the actual problem. And the initial step in addressing this problem in terms of training would not address the problem that they've identified, and that coaching would actually be the better option. So my recommendation in using the skills that best suits you is, what is the go-to skills that you use whether it's solving problems or completing a task. Actively engage these skills because you use it in everything that you do. Truly understand how you use them and then apply to every aspect of your life. And that is how you actually start identifying the heart of a problem and really understanding what is required.
I think so often we tend to forget about the 5 senses. I like that you've reminded us how important the 5 senses are in looking at a problem and stepping back and actually working through what those are. Thank you for sharing that. I want to bring in Jennifer. Jennifer Randive is the owner and CEO of Focus Direct Management Consultants in the UAE. And in preparing for this panel discussion, I did some research on her and found a written piece that described her as someone who invites people to recognize themselves as a valuable contribution. And, you know, in what Yolande was sharing now in terms of using your 5 senses and that invitation to recognize that you're valuable, it's just such a trigger that I think all of us are going to be experiencing on this webinar at the moment. Jennifer is somebody who is not just the CEO and who works all around the world and has sleepless nights kind of leading organizations through strategy and innovation. So really we appreciate the time that you've also spent on this call with us today to share with us all of your wisdom that you've acquired over the years. Jennifer, you know, we're going through so many degrees right now of worry and fear and panic, and Alexa also shared with us in the beginning of just how much trauma impacts us and what happens with fear in terms of closing us off from the ability to collaborate. So most of us on this call, if not all of us, have been through or are currently experiencing that perhaps, oh, I'm not feeling as though I could be a valuable contribution to my community, my place of work, or to my organization, perhaps even to my own family. How do we invite people to recognize themselves as a valuable contribution for those on the call, in our networks, in our communities, and in the world?
Well, thanks for that amazing question. Nice and long one, so I'm going to break it up and see how we could work around it. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Hawa for this opportunity and to say a special thanks for all those amazing ladies that we're sharing the floor with today, and you, Michelle, as well. I have one thing that I like to bring is, I call it my new SLA, and possibly it might be able to help you. It's to stop, listen, and ask. When I say ask, it's about asking questions. And it doesn't have to be complicated. You know, we have tried to do so many things, to have so many forms and structures. And please don't get me wrong, ladies, it's not about not having formal structure. But if we are the people who've actually created these processes and the operating systems and all of that and all the designations that we have, and right now we are at the center of something where none of that is working. None of that is working. So now, what is it that we have got to do? It's very simple. We just have to stop. Because right now, what's going on, we are in a desperate reaction mode. And when we're operating from desperation, we are inviting all confusion to be added onto it. So that's more fear coming in, more anxiety, more stress, more people dying, more people unhappy. So essentially, it's about stop, just stop. And as you did, Michelle, before we started, was to help us to stay quiet for 15 seconds. That was to align to who we truly are. And yes, to answer your question, what is our operating system right now? How is everyone operating right now? Desperation, frustration, irritation, aggravation. And that's why I'm so happy that Hawa thought of having this as an innovation, to have creation, motivation, inspiration, because those are the things right now that are really going to help everyone. To ask the question, what kind of questions are we asking right now? We seem to be coming to a lot of conclusions, and these conclusions have always been illusions, because they do not allow you to go beyond what it is that you're experiencing right now. So it's more about how can we truly engage in asking interesting questions. So yes, if a CEO right now is having situations with the company and having sleepless nights and is going through turmoil and all kinds of stuff, what kind of questions can he ask? It's like, whatever it is that we have been used to is not working anymore. The ability to be vulnerable at this particular moment, because designations have no consequence right now. A woman, a wife, a mother, a child, a CEO, all of us have the same situation going on. So what's different about that? It's actually stopping, because we've got to engage with ourselves to really get to know what will actually create more for ourselves. Because unless we do not know who we are, we really can't contribute to anyone else. So yes, as Alexa mentioned, it's an inside job, guys. Whatever's happening on the inside will determine how you show up on the outside. Did I answer that enough, or would you like some more?
She's thinking I need an SLA now. I am so implementing an SLA in my life. I love that term. I love how you're saying that, because we're in this desperate space and we're reacting. Actually, what we're inviting is more of the stuff that we don't want.
Exactly.
And we just keep building on what everybody's leading kind of up to this particular point. And that designation has no consequence. That actually, as we all, we're all equal. We're all in.
We're all the same. You see, that's what it is. We've been called upon not to separate. This is the time for us to integrate, to come together. Absolutely. This is it. This is the change we've been asking for. It's showing up in a different way, but it's here. It is here.
It reminds me of the Renaissance period, when we came out of the dark ages at the end of World War II, and we had Leonardo da Vinci, and we had these amazing 3D sculptures coming out of electricity. And now, again, we're going through a dark age, and the most phenomenal innovations are going to emerge, undoubtedly. But what I'm sensing from everybody so far is that you're either going to be a part of creating this new world, which is going to require collaboration, innovation, open-mindedness, being connected with self and others unreservedly. Otherwise, you're going to be a bystander and a victim and in reaction. And to what you were saying is just, you're going to live in a world where you're in fear and anxiety.
It's a very interesting time. And as Yolande mentioned, when she talks about challenge, I just wanted to add to that, if I may. What if every challenge that we're experiencing has a hidden gift?
Absolutely.
And what is that gift that we can question to really get to know? Because each one of us is unique, and we're here to be the change, literally. Good old Gandhi. Salute you, babes.
Yeah. Jennifer, how does recognizing ourselves as a valuable contribution empower us to successfully navigate this crisis in an innovative way?
Thank you for that. The first thing that we've got to actually look at is if we are constantly judging ourselves and making ourselves wrong, that's a starting point. When we are trying to compare ourselves with the rest of the people, We constantly are in, if they're doing it, then they must be right. No one is asking questions to draw out from within you what really is your sweet spot. What turns you on? What's your unique capacity? Is one of the most vital things that I have experienced while coaching many people. Okay, each one of them and each one of us has got this unique sweet spot, but to be able to get it out is something that mentors and coaches like all of us are actually required at this time. This is the time for innovation to create, to bring out from within. I've had many people who have who are in this particular moment being able to create, and I'm one of them. I personally and have no shame, because vulnerability for me is the most powerful thing ever. I had this thing about not being able to go on TV or be on camera. Today I'm sitting with all of you and actually talking on camera, and I'm wondering, wow, that's a change. Okay, but we have to really get out of our own way. I had to get out of my own way, because being vulnerable at this particular time is the most powerful thing for anyone to choose to be. Vulnerability, according to many people, has been, oh, you're going to be walked all over, you're going to be treated like rubbish. No, you're not. It is the most powerful and the most potent gift to be in. So CEOs, anyone who's looking at, please stop finding fault with you. It's not your management system, it's not your operating system that is wrong. It is a situation that we've been called upon as a gift to shift and change, to take our planet and our world to a different level. That's it. So instead of judging ourselves, stop, listen, ask questions. What else can I be first and do differently? That will be the change that I'm here to create dynamically. Because that's what we're here to do.
I think what's resonating with me there is that we need to get out of our own way.
Totally.
Can you share some more tools with us that you're most fond of, that could help us kind of contribute to innovating a bit more? I like the way you're saying kind of get out of your own way. How does one practically do something like that in order to innovate?
Okay. For example, I'll give you a couple of examples that I've had working with people. And I work with a lot of consciousness and helping people to change consciously and working with their energy, okay? So I bring energy, consciousness, and pragmatic tools actually to shift and change people as to how they're showing up in their own life. Now, most of the time, we have been put into these boxes as to this is the how, this is the way it has to be, this is the only way, the right way, and the perfect way. But that is now getting in our own way. So now to be able to look at all of those things, it is, whose ways are those? Are they yours? Did you buy into them? Was it your mom's, dad's, teachers, parents, whoever's? They were only bringing that to you so that that's all they knew. But the thing is now, are we grown up enough to actually ask this question, who does this belong to? Who does this belong to? Is it even mine? And the funny thing is this, when you ask that question, who does it belong to, there's something that's going to actually, it resonates in your body. Either you feel very light or you'll feel like a bit heavy. Funny thing is, if you're feeling light at that particular point, that does not belong to you. So just return it to the senders with consciousness attached. I've had people actually shifting their energies rapidly. Pain has gone, frustration has gone. Everything is just vanished simply because they use this tool. Who does this belong to? Just ask that question. And what else is possible here that we haven't even considered yet? We are not looking for answers at this particular point, Michelle. We are looking for awareness. And awareness is very subtle. It does not come in written format to you. It is your connection to get out of your own way, to actually be the way and know that you are the way to create something different. Totally. That's how I work with clients. It's not something cognitive. You can't wrap your head around awareness, but you can question and you can receive the awareness. That for me works better than getting answers to the questions, and for my clients as well.
That links quite nicely to what Yolande was saying about the 5 senses, and just kind of that awareness, because I guess the innovation or the idea, if we think about it practically, it is an awareness that then comes to you.
Exactly, it's just that. So it's very quick. And then we have the pragmatic tools to do, is to first be what it is, to choose to be what you are without an apology, and then choose to step in and do what it is that will create more for you and everyone around you and the planet too. That's the gift in any challenge that I see. A nudge to budge.
Feels like I want to take another 15-second break and breathe. I know we're on the call with time, but this picture of extreme innovation for an extreme crisis is for me now, it's starting to look a little bit more achievable, because I think if anything, we're living in a time where there's so many tools and technological innovations that humanity can leverage to design and develop these innovative prototypes. And if I look at kind of all the contributions so far, there is at the core of this innovation a very human element that goes to all of this, an understanding of self, an awareness of self and others and the environment and what's going around. I mean, if I look at like a recent extreme innovation for an extreme crisis, it's the South African-born Marcel Botha who helped bring the low-cost Spirowave ventilator into existence just 4 weeks ago to help New York fight against COVID-19. I mean, I think this is a great success story and such an example of what we're talking about this morning in terms of, you know, being aware, taking care of self, reaching out, collaborating. And I want to bring Tasneem into the conversation now, kind of as we move into kind of the next space, which is really around, you know, that aspect of innovation. Tasneem is the Chief Imagination Officer for Think South Africa. Tasneem, you've got lots of experience leading these types of innovations. And if we take into consideration people that are on this call, what type of process, other than the process of self and awareness that we've been reflecting on, and also that Yolande shared in terms of, you know, the MAP, the growth mindset, learning and development, what are some of the other processes that one has to go through when you're under pressure to deliver an innovation?
Thanks, Michelle, for that question. And I think before I actually go into the how-to, I'd like to reflect on the definition of innovation. And innovation, I'd like to start off by saying that it's a human-led process in which we unlock novel or creative and new value and implement it. So it's about taking ideas from mind to market. But more importantly, it's a human-led process. And I guess what overwhelms individuals or gets us to undermine our capacity to innovate is that we associate innovation with big bang disruption or technology. Technology is an enabler for a human process and a gift that lies within every single one of us. So I'd like to start there. In terms of how do we innovate as individuals under pressure, again, coming back to what the panel has shared, it's about understanding ourselves and knowledge about ourselves. So every single one of us has dominant and secondary thinking profiles. So understanding your innovation and your thinking profile will help you understand where do we operate. So myself, for example, I'm a radical creative. So my primary thinking style is radical creativity. My secondary thinking style leans towards leadership. Once I know that, I also know what my areas of development challenges are. So I'm very good in terms of ideation, coming up with the strategies, developing the blueprints. But where I require support in terms of implementing my innovation is the process element of making sure those ideas are implemented, monitored. And once we understand from a thinking perspective where we operate, we also understand what kind of resources or people we need to complement us in terms of being able to practically innovate. And that's a question of pulling on friends, calling on colleagues, calling on people that we know have particular strengths in operations. So I was quite tactful when I, chose my business partner. I'd like to think that we chose each other. And I think she chose me because of my radical creative abilities. And she's absolutely brilliant when it comes to process and implementing my radical ideas. So it's a perfect marriage of minds and works absolutely brilliantly. When we innovating under pressure, again, coming back to what Jennifer said earlier, it's about stop and think and giving ourselves the time to think. And that means carving out during the course of our day thinking time. I know my best thinking happens in the shower or absolutely late at night while I'm lying in bed. Some people might, tap into their thinking time while commuting or during cooking. So carve out that time in which you can then actually give yourself that space to literally contemplate and think about the challenge that you're facing. The next step in that process is to interrogate the problem, speaking to what Yolande said. What is the problem? What is the root of that particular problem? And what are the potential solutions? Where we also get inspiration for solutions is by expanding our mindset in terms of curiosity. So our mind is a data center, and what we fill our brain with is what information it will give us access to. And like Steve Jobs said, creativity is purely the process of connecting things. And the more data input we have that is diverse, the more we have this ability to connect unusual things and create and unlock new opportunities. So a way in which we can do that is a process of what I call multi-sensory learning. And that's something that we can practice on a daily basis. So tune into a different radio station. You watch, particular type of films, choose a different genre. If you read a specific type of book, start expanding the choices of books that you read. Take a tour in your city. Go and eat at a restaurant that you've never eaten at before. Engage with people. When you put on your pair of shoes, start questioning, where does this leather originate from? What is the shade of color? And the more we become curious, the more data we inputting into our minds, it allows us to create radical connections and find new opportunities to innovate. So those are practical tools. In addition to that, a design thinking framework. So you'll see up on the screen a specific model that we use at Think SA, which takes people through a step-by-step process in which you start off absorbing what your innovation challenge is, interrogating what you're trying to solve for, then moving into a process of what we call explosion. And that's about blue sky, radical, off the chart thinking. And to be able to achieve that, you need to be investing in creative thinking tools to be able to come up with the most fantastic ideas and push the boundaries of our own thinking capabilities. Once you've got this bank of fantastic ideas, it's about then selecting the one that's going to work the best within the context of the challenge that you're facing. So how do I select my ideas? How much is it going to cost? How much time is it going to take to implement? What resources do I need to make this innovation happen? And then we move into the important part, which converts a fantastic idea into an actual innovation, and that's the process of action planning. So how do I make sure that I've got the best resources, best skills, and the best ability to make sure that idea is crafted into an end product that actually enters the market. And once it enters the market or it's out there, how do I continuously measure its impact or the value that it's unlocked? How do I improve on that idea? And it's a continuous cycle. So innovation is not a once-off event. It's a continuous iterative process of continuous improvement and challenging our thinking every single step of the way.
Wow. I love what you're saying around knowing yourself, that you need to know your thinking profile. That really stood out for me, and carving out time to think, to build on what Jennifer was saying around the awareness, to consider where do we get innovation from, and to expose the mind. I was like, ooh, I'm doing that. I started ago after the One World concert. Like my song these days is Saj Nevar. I don't speak Hindi, but like it's been inspiring, and now it kind of makes sense because the curiosity is there to kind of listen and expose my mind to different things in different ways. And I like what you were saying around radical connections and being curious, asking where the leather is coming from in terms of your shoes. You've given us some really interesting practical ways for us to stimulate our thinking. Is there anything else in terms of reading, or because a lot of what we've also shared together is in learning, in exposing your mind. We've also shared a number of kind of other books to read. What are some of the kind of learning interventions or books or things that you've exposed yourself to that's really helped you develop this tool of innovation, other than kind of, you know, some of the recommendations that you gave us now?
Okay, so for me, it's about another critical factor in terms of my personal learning has been based on observing what other people are doing. So looking at future trends, following futurists, looking at what you know, the top future skills would be, for instance, where economies are going to be evolving, you know, following thought leaders and futurists, but also importantly, speaking to people on the ground every day facing those challenges. And we'll be amazed at the wealth of information we find, you know, from the people around us, or even the people that we don't make an effort to connect with. And it's about, you know, establishing those connections with the radical individual that we might pass by. So it's just being open to asking the opinions of others. And you might have a challenge that you're facing, and the least likely person you think could be the one holding a goldmine solution. So it's about opening ourselves up, and as Jennifer mentioned this as well, making ourselves vulnerable. You know, overcoming our own ego in terms of, I need to do this, I'm the only one capable of solving this on our own. And we, you know, there's a process that we engage in, and we call it the power of three, where in some instances CEOs are facing or grappling really strategic challenges. And you bring in a completely radical, or you bring in a CEO from a completely radical or diverse industry, and you get them to share their thinking. And there's the most amazing ideas and collaborations that come out of those engagements. So yes, it's about making ourselves vulnerable and also humbling ourselves enough to know that everyone has a potential opinion or solution, and opening yourself up to those possibilities.
Yes, totally.
Absolutely.
You also kind of mentioned the fact that innovation is not just a once-off event, that it's continuous. I think you've also given us a good sense of how it is continuous, that it is very much a constant development of self, to open yourself up to collaborate. just in terms of a closing comment from everybody before we shift into the audience, Hawa, and if you can help us navigate if there are some important questions that we can maybe grab to and answer. But in closing, before we move to the questions that that may have surfaced on the chat, if you could each kind of give me a sense, and we'll start with Tasneem. How do we keep innovating? How do we contribute to this emerging world? How do we sustain it?
I think it's coming back to ourselves and innovating from the perspective of what do I bring to the world? Where does my value lie? And you know, the more we understand and know ourselves and the value we want to bring to the world and operate in that particular sphere of strength, the more opportunity we have to be more innovative, because then we're working in a state of flow as opposed to following what everybody else is doing. So that's where I need to be, and going against the grain of this is my personality. So it's ironic because I'm in the space of innovation and creativity, but I'm actually the perfect introvert. So, you know, leave me in my bedroom to ideate and solve the country's problems that I'm most comfortable. And when we operate from a sense of knowing who we are and being completely contented with that, really drilling deep in terms of what our gifts are and how do I bring that forward to the world. By doing that, we all bring innovation into the world.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yolande.
Thank you, Michelle. In terms of innovating, and the panel said so many beautiful things this morning in terms of getting us understanding where and how to innovate. The only constant right now is change and uncertainty. And perhaps the question we should be asking ourselves is this crisis in my way or on my way? If it's in your way, it becomes your stumbling block and you fear it. If it's on your way, you embrace it like every new and exciting adventure. Embrace the art and power of not knowing right now, so that it helps you to pivot and recreate, reinvent, explore, and discover. And most importantly, celebrate the micro wins during this journey. Because what we find is that we constantly rushing to achieve something. And then once we've achieved it, it's like it's anticlimax of, oh, okay, I've got this, I've done this, I've achieved this. But the little wins that you should have celebrated along this journey helps you to actually appreciate how you've grown and the growth that's come about because of the challenges that you're exposed to. For me, I've used the COVID acronym to help me to pivot and innovate by exercising my positive and benefit mindset. And I'll just go through that quickly. The C in COVID is courage to create, dream, and collaborate. The O for me is to open myself up to opportunities and learning. The V, value everything, including the challenges that I face. The I, innovate with confidence and excitement, because lots of people, this is quite scary and fearful in terms of what they need to do and what the next step is. And lastly, the D, diverge by embracing diversity and differences. And like we've heard this morning, sometimes it's letting go of the things and the systems that don't serve me any longer. You need to identify what those things are, and that comes in with awareness. So the quote that I am currently living by, or my go-to quote by Tasneem, is, life shrinks and expands in relation to our courage. And I'd actually like to add on to that. So for me, it's, and likewise, our learning and growing shrinks and expands in relation to our curiosity and how curious we are to grow and to learn and to take that next step.
Thank you. Jennifer.
What I'd like to say is, if we can look at this current situation as a gift for us to open up, to truly be the CEOs of our life and living, which would be, what if you could actually choose to be the conscious, empowered orchestrator of your own life? What would that look like? What can that be? And also, probably it's the time for us to get out of desperate reactions into inspired action. That, for me, is very essential. And question, stop, listen, and ask questions.
And remember that thing you told me yesterday about the belief versus knowing.
Yeah, but the thing is that are people ready to step and get out of their own way? And remind me, because Michelle, half the time I would say something and it comes like, and then it disappears. So please, so feel free to say it. It's actually, because it's most of the time that's the awareness. It comes at that moment and okay, it's done, this job. So it's not about dwelling about it. And I loved what Tasneem said. You're amazing. All that beautiful map that you showed us, phenomenal. And when I looked at it, it said to me, my goodness, that's just like what a kid would do. Be a kid, be childlike, not childish. That was a childlike scenario there. Amazing stuff. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you. Alexa.
So for me, it's around creating space and creating space to tap into our inner resources. And something that sticks out for me is the work that Viktor Frankl did. And he's was a neurologist and a psychiatrist who actually survived the Holocaust.
Yes.
And he gave us two like really important quotes, both which resonate with me at this particular time. And the first one reads, "When we're no longer able to change a situation, we're challenged to change ourselves." And we can only get that right if we focus on ourselves.
Now I get it.
And on things that we can control and influence. And the second quote that resonates with me is, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, and that is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." He also wrote a really phenomenal book. It's called Man's Search for Meaning. And that's, that book at this time is a brilliant read. So, yeah.
I remember.
That's how about you, but I've got a whole lot of things I need to do this afternoon now. But maybe now's the time to hand over and see if there's any questions while we've got a few minutes left on the call.
Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, we've got about 10 minutes on the call and we've got approximately a few questions. So let me just take you through them quickly. So firstly, we have from Brother Zafar, who's asking, what is one key leadership challenge different from classical ones, which we can ask them to focus on immediately? So that it isn't directed to any panelist, but if anybody would like to answer, that would be fantastic. Again, what is the one key leadership challenge different from classical ones, which we can ask them to focus on immediately? In other words, the leaders.
Can I step in there, Hawa?
Yes, please. Thanks, Tasneem.
Okay, so Zafar, thank you for that particular question. And, there's no doubt that we operate in an era of business unusual, and it's not going away. And talking about innovation, the most critical, or one of the most critical things that leaders need to be asking is, we have a culture in place that supports the process of ongoing innovation? Do we have the right resources? Have we upskilled our staff to be able to innovate and develop their competencies in this particular area? So have we laid the foundation for sustainable and ongoing innovation that increases our ability to become more resilient, more agile, more adaptive? And instead of operating from a perspective of being reactive, we're proactive in terms of the way we address challenges. That is the new normal.
Good. Brother Zafar, I hope that answers. Would anyone else like to take a shot? Michelle, we have lots of comments. I'm not going to talk about the comments at this stage. It will take up too much of time, but some very interesting chats that have been going on while the ladies were speaking. So we will definitely post those chats in terms of when we do post the video. So together with the video, we will post the chats as well, so people can take those comments in. Brother Zafar, I trust that has answered your question. Anyone else would like to take it, or can I ask the next question, ladies?
Can I just comment on that question as well? I think for me, the leadership skills which are required now is transparency. It's around care, it's around empathy, and it's around being able to say, as a leader, I don't know. And that's okay.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Perfect.
And I think that's the strongest leadership, is when we actually do admit where our shortfalls are. And you know what? We're human. We are not saints. We are going to have to ask for that help. So absolutely. Thank you, Alexa. On to the next question. Tasneem, this question is directed to you from Nasira Turkey. What are your key tools during the difficult time to innovate?
Okay, so thank you, Nasira, for that question. There's a bank of radical tools, that we use on an ongoing basis. One of the a very useful and practical tool, and if I've got 2 minutes, I'll share it, with the group. And one of them is called a mission. And that's about looking at your existing business model or the challenge that you're facing and removing the most fundamental aspect of that, taking it completely out of the equation and replacing it with something new. So to give you a practical example, for instance, if I own a chain of restaurants and, I face closure, or I face, a significant reduction in terms of the number of patrons that will be visiting my establishment, even post-COVID, because of the fears created and the increased call for social distancing, which is going to be an ongoing trend for at least the next 2 years. What do I do in that circumstance? So in that case, you could say, for instance, I'm going to take out, I've got 50 tables, I'm taking out 25 tables to increase social distancing in the space, but that reduces my income. So how do I increase and create more value for my patrons? So maybe I pivot my model and I completely change that to, and again, speaking to the UN development goals, where it becomes learning cafes for youth, for instance, and I'm going to have 25 tables. I'll still serve them food. I'm going to have technology available, free Wi-Fi, and they'll have access to massive online courses to reskill themselves for this, and they would pay a subscription fee to be able to come to the cafe, and they'll get their food. So that's a really nice tool that you can use to disrupt your existing models or unlock new value. And a lot of our clients have been using that to pivot existing models. Yeah. So that's just one of them.
I love that tool, Tasneem. Tasneem did a session for us on a training session for a full hour, and we actually focused a lot on the mission tool. So it's an amazing tool, and I started using it immediately after that, and it just spiraled a whole lot of thinking after that. You didn't think that something as simple as omission, taking something out, and then thinking about what you can replace it with, we can actually do. Those of you interested, please contact our office. We do have a recording of that particular session, and we're more than happy to be able to share it with you. So let us know. We have one more question, well, a few more, but I'll just go through them. Also, those of you who would like to unmute yourself, just please raise your hand, and Armel is on standby to take your questions. But a question is from Ashraf Garda. What's the trigger to get a person desperately short of confidence to radically up their game to keep up with the demands of living in a COVID-19 world? So I'm not sure if somebody wants to take that. Jennifer, you seem to be giggling on that, so that's definitely up your alley, right?
It's the time for a wake up and a shake up. So yes, if you really want to get somebody out of their own way of thinking and what it is that's going on, please recognize that this, for everyone, is a wake up and a shake up call. And when you can wake up, it's like, wow, things are totally different. You actually see things from a different perspective. And yes, I make a whole lot of fun and joke, but if you actually get out of your way and not go into, oh my God, I have to get it right and perfect, it's amazing what all stuff actually will show up for you.
Yeah. Absolutely. And just to end that off for you, Jenny, I have a saying in life, and I always say that I had to give myself, it's what I call an AAK. And it might sound a bit harsh of what an AAK is, but for me, it's an attitude adjustment club that I had to actually give myself to get myself out of the way. So club in Afrikaans starts with a K in South Africa, so that's why it's with a K-A-K. But it's an attitude adjustment slap that you need to give yourself. So that's something I had to do. And sometimes as people, we got to help others get out of their own way by sometimes giving them that attitude adjustment clap. And I don't mean it physically, I mean that realization. So absolutely true. Otherwise we'll be arrested for not abiding by social distancing. We then have also a question. If I used to have the Johari window. Okay, sorry, those are comments. Totally agree. All right, so if there is anyone, I would have a thought, something like your leadership in situations. Sorry, I'm just going through them. These are last minute ones that came in to lead in the market. One key tool is CRM. All right, are there any other questions that we'd like to ask the group? Those of you who would like to unmute yourself, Admiral, if you can unmute the entire group so we can then have people ask questions. We have the last 3 minutes before Michelle then closes off. So a minute quickly to take anyone's questions. The lines are open, ladies and gents. I see everyone has been unmuted. If you'd like to unmute yourself, please feel free to do so. Any questions, comments?
Hawa,
yes,
thanks.
Brother Zafir.
I just want to, end with a very, the whole feeling of COVID-19 is some kind of a thing that has never happened to the globe in its ever regarded history. It's really a 440-watt spark that has been given to the world. And I'm saying that we're getting into a totally different world. And to me, the leadership has to create a sense of urgency in the organization, like the house is in fire. So your leadership style totally changes. You don't have time to reflect too much, design, think, and you have to create that sense of urgency and create that fire in the entire organization, people at all levels, to engage them, to be ready to move ahead. It's a question of survival. It's not just nice to have that kind of change. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Anyone wants to comment on that? Hi, yes, Josh. Hi.
Hi, this was an absolutely amazing panel discussion. Thank you so much. I just want to make a comment on what Tasneem said on the last, and I posted it on the chat, was that I was just speaking to a person in the restaurant business. And just by speaking to them, I mean, they were very desperate, and, even being in the IT field, it become challenging because people are holding on to their money, if I can say that, because times are very volatile. So whilst everyone's thinking it's a fantastic time to be in IT, it's actually also very challenging. But I just want to say that we continued speaking about his business and where it's going, and we came up with 2 fantastic ideas that we're actually going to get a group of people to invest, and we're going to launch it into the market. So, it's just being creative at this moment, and it's about being innovative as well. So, just speak to people, I love what Tasneem said, just where does the leather come from? That is just simple enough for everyone to use. So thank you very much, all the ladies. Jennifer, very powerful. I loved everything you said, and all the ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Josh. No, that's amazing feedback. And you're absolutely right. In fact, what Tasneem says is what Jennifer lives by, is that radical, that they both actually live by. In fact, all of you ladies, is become radical. Ask lots of questions. People will probably not like that you're going to be asking questions. Where did this come from? But go against the grain. That's what it's all about, and you don't have to be an extrovert. Look at Tasneem. She admits that she's very much an introvert, but she's extremely creative because she asks the right questions at the right time. I don't think there aren't any more questions from this side, unless there is anybody else. I'm sure, Michelle, I want to leave at least the last 2 minutes for you to be able to close off. So there are just comments going on, which we will then definitely be sharing. Michelle, over to you. If there aren't any more questions from the audience, if there is, please raise your hand. And those of you who still want to stay behind, you're more than welcome to then stay behind. I know that some of our panelists, including Michelle, has to leave urgently to another webinar. So Michelle, over to you for your last 2 minutes of closing.
Oh, Hawa, I just wanted to say thank you so much. And to everybody for all the comments that I was kind of sifting through. It's always such a pleasure to be on a call with individuals who are wanting to contribute to a crisis that needs a whole lot of contribution and collaboration. I think that the key thing for me that I'm taking away from this is to be the change you want to see in the world, which really does mean we've got to connect, we've got to reach out, we've got to collaborate, get out of our own ways, learn new skills, stimulate ourselves in different ways, ask questions, implement SLAs, don't procrastinate. I kept seeing coming up there, because really where we are is where we've chosen to be, and if we want to be somewhere else, then we've got to move, and right now moving is going to take a whole lot of solidarity. So for those of you who are on the call, I just want to say, please make sure to follow Hawa and Orbrix and the news that they're going to be posting and the webinars. You'll find the panelists and all the individuals that are involved with this organization and contributing to this world as it's emerging in that space, because, you know, I'm sure I can speak for everybody on this call that we don't want the innovation to stop. It needs to continue. And the only way that we can do that is if we continue this conversation that was initiated today. So thank you to everybody and to Hawa. It's been such a lovely conversation. I've learned so much. I'm going to be teaching in half an hour. So I got new. I really appreciate it more than you know. And then systems leadership, by the way, I'm going to go implement and impact another system as a result of the work and the contribution that you've made today. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Michelle, thank you so much. On behalf of Orbrix, we firstly would like to thank you as our moderator. It's been amazing. The feedback has been fantastic. If you look through the chats, people have loved the way and how you've moderated right from the beginning. When you and I chatted, you were committed right from the beginning. The calls to the panelists, the group that was set up, the meeting you had with them yesterday, just to identify who they are so that you could ask the right questions. We really appreciate it. A hearty, hearty appreciation. Thank you very much. And of course, to all our panelists, Alexa, you've been amazing. Thank you. We haven't even met physically, and yet I already feel this amazing connection with both you and Yolande, two ladies that I haven't met, and Michelle, of course, as well. We've just met virtually, and it's amazing and that's innovation, isn't it? Bringing people together without even being together. So for me, that's amazing. Thank you, Yolande. Thank you, Alexa. It's been amazing meeting up with you. People join us in this coming week. Just watch our space. Alexa has a session coming up. We also have a session tomorrow morning to remind you with Champion South Africa, the founder of Champion South Africa, Ashraf Garda, who is going to be joining us tomorrow morning on Champion People Build Champion Nations. And that's exactly what it is, isn't it? If we build people into champion people, they can then automatically build champion nations. And that's what this is. It's that innovative structure. Jennifer, I can't say thank you enough. You've always been there to support us, and whether I was in South Africa, whether I was here, you were always on the backbone. We might not speak as often, but we're always in each other's minds, each other's thoughts, and most definitely on social media, we check in. And the one thing that she always says, two things: get out of your own way is the first thing, and the second thing is together we are better, ladies. It doesn't just have to be, we're always better together, and I always quote that, is that together we are better. This is what this is about. Tasneem, thank you so much, as always. We really look forward to working with you here in the Middle East, the whole of the Middle, rolling out these step-by-step communications. So ladies and gents, watch out for that, because we'll be seeing a lot of communication happening on all the innovative programs. In fact, we start one up immediately a month from now. We will run our first innovative program here in the UAE, taking you step by step. It's a 4-hour program that will give you actual physical tools on what you can utilize in your business. So please watch out for that. To our audience, thank you, Tasneem. Our audience, I know I left you for the last, but you have been amazing. The people that have committed to all our sessions, we've got some regulars. Brother Zafar, thank you very much. Shanta, Shahzad, who's joined us today. Amika, Naz, who's been fantastic and is always committed. Josh from the WICO community, whom both Tasneem and I are part of. Please, if you don't know about WCOE, go and research them, check them out, join our community, because it's a women who are catering for other women in terms of business. And not that we're leaving the men out, we welcome the support. We need the support of the men, because I strongly believe that if we're going to reach that boardroom level, that we are going to be handling and dealing with the men. And if we don't have them part of our society now, there's a possibility we never will. So please, we love the collaboration. Thank you very much, WCOE, for being part of this. And to all our audience, thank you for attending. Watch out for the videos. I know we've been a little slow on the videos. The reason is we were just getting the right temperament to be able to download it in a proper manner, so you don't have to download. You can immediately watch it directly. We've now got that right. We're working with the new system, so by tomorrow you should slowly start seeing all the videos that there was a backlog on. Each day there'll be a new video. The panel discussion by mid next week should definitely be up. Please watch that. Join our Facebook page and join our Staying Virtually Live with Orbrix Facebook page as well. Ladies and gents, thank you very much. Michelle, I know you have something to run to, so thank you. I wish you all the best. Jennifer, Tasneem, Yolande, Alexa, and to the audience. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Hawa.
And I wish you all the best. If there are any questions, people want to stay behind, Armal and I are going to still be here. We can always forward your questions to everyone. Please, the guests, before you leave the speakers, if you can quickly type out your contact details. If anybody would like to connect with you, it can be part of the chat, and we'll make sure that everybody gets it. Something I should have done earlier, but we will send it to those that were part of the session and had to leave. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Bye-bye. And if I don't say totsins, as I always would, I would never be South African. So totsins, everybody. Sanagash. Oh, if you just corrected me, it's not Sanagashli, it's Hamagashli. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Bye-bye. And let's keep in touch on more sessions. I look forward to seeing you all. Alexa, your session, I believe, is on Tuesday, correct?
Yes.
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 So we look forward to that session that is coming up as well. Thank you very much. If you can just, while people are signing off, if you have a minute, maybe just tell them a little intro as to what your session is going to be about.
So it's going to be in greater detail on how we actually can manage ourselves during this time.
Okay, we lost you there for a second, Alexa.
Sorry. So my session is going to be around how we can actually manage ourselves during this time that we're going through. So I'm going to be fleshing that out a bit more.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Watch out for that session, 11 a.m. UAE time, 9 a.m. South African time, 12 p.m. Pakistan time, and of course it's 7 a.m. GMT time for those of you. So give us a shout. We look forward to having you tomorrow. Champion People Build Champion Nations, and on Tuesday we have Alexa's session as well. And watch out for our crisis management. Those of you involved with crisis management at CBRN, we have our speaker, Jeff, Dr. Jeff from France, who will be taking you through how to manage crisis within a country, within a government, and within an organization. It's part of our CBRN series that we're running every Thursday. So please watch out for that as well. Ladies and gents, thank you very much. All the best. Michelle, have a lovely session with the students. Bye-bye.
All the best.
How are you?
Bye.
Are you putting
Virtual
YouTube?